married, he finds a lion, that kills the lion, and as the months went by, he comes back, and inside the carcass of the lion, there was a beehive that had produced honey. And Samson, knowing the law of God that you were not to touch carcasses, goes, puts his hand in and draws the honey and eats of it. No concerns. Because what Samson sees, it's good enough for him. And he sees this harlot and goes into her. And what amount of trouble Samson had with this woman. Notice the book of Daniel, chapter 1. Daniel, chapter 1. Come on. Daniel, chapter 1. Verse 8. We read, but Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's delicacies, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Here we have the opposite. Now, let me ask you a question. Which is the strongest appetite? Sexual appetite or appetite for food? Food appetite. Yes or no? You have to eat at least 3 times a day. But there are people that are so controlled that they eat all day long. They only eat once a day. They eat from the morning until evening. And there are others, dear friends, that whatever they put in front, if it feels good, if you want it, you eat it. No, gentlemen, if you are in an island, you've been stranded in an island for weeks, over weeks, and you have not eaten, and you are hungry, and a ship comes, and they rescue you, and when you get to the shore, they open the door, and there's your wife waiting for you, and next to her is a table full of food. What would you go for first? You go for the food. Yes or no? Because the appetite for food is an appetite of survival. Yes or no? No one dies if they don't have sex. But you die if you don't eat. What I'm trying to illustrate here, dear friends, that the cause of Daniel, his decision, was a lot more difficult than decisions made by Samson. What made the difference? Samson saw the woman, he saw the food, and his feelings, his appetites controlled him, and he had to have it. If it feels good, do it. Daniel saw the food, and let me tell you, Babylonian food must have been very attractive. It was prepared for the king, the best of foods. It must have been the yummiest of foods. And this man has been a slave. He has been in the dungeons of Babylon. He has walked for months to get to Babylon. And now they put the array of food in front of him. And this young man decides that he would rather die than eat the food of Babylon. What I am trying to illustrate here, Daniel was controlled by a higher principle than the passions and feelings. And today I'd like us to understand this. The power of the will. Unless you understand the power of the will and how to manage your will and how to deal with it, you will always remain a slave of your appetites and passions. You will always remain a slave of Satan. The will. Let me read to you how Mrs. White describes the will. She says, in the book of the 5th volume of the Testimonies, page 513, she says, pure religion has to do with the will. The will is the governing power in the nature of man, bringing all the other faculties under its sway. The will is not the taste or the inclination, but it is the deciding power which works in the children of men unto obedience to God or unto disobedience. What is the will? The will is the God-given power to humanity to be able to choose between right and wrong. What is the will, friends? The will is the governing power of the human nature that gives you the ability, the power to choose freely between right and wrong. Let me give you an example. You get up in the morning, you have a shower, and go to your wardrobe. And the question is in your mind, what am I going to wear today? In order to choose what you are going to wear, you're exercising your will. Well, you are dressed, you go down to the kitchen, and now you're going to prepare breakfast. And you open your cupboards, and the question is, what am I going to eat today? Well, whatever you choose is the exercise of the will. You go down, you jump in your car, you start driving, and suddenly someone goes in front of you. You lower your window and say, hey, you beep, 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 beep. You've just exercised your will by choosing to allow your nature to react that way. You're driving, you're running late, suddenly it's amber, and you know this thing is going to make you wait for about 40 seconds. Now you've got to choose between stopping or accelerating, and you flog it. Boom, boom, boom. That was close, you say. The red light camera didn't get me. You've just exercised your will. You come back home, you're tired, you're feeling irritated, your kids come, they want to play with you, and they start mucking up and jumping on you, and you're feeling irritated, and you want to scream, you want to say, hey, stop it, or you want to punish them, all these things. It's the will. Will either choose this way or that way. You choose a sermon. You listen to a sermon today. And there is an option. You've got to choose to die to self or to continue on the way you've gone. The decision, the outcome will always be determined by the will. The will is the most important faculty given to humanity. And Jesus, let me tell you this, Jesus died on Calvary's cross to give man the opportunity to choose. True? Yes or no? The will is so important to God that actually Christ died to give us the opportunity to choose between right and wrong. Are you with me? Are you following me? Yet, we know so little about the will. Let me read that text again, that quote. Ellen White says this, pure religion has to do with the will, friends. Pure religion is all about to do with the will. You know, many times, many years ago, I heard a sermon like this, and someone preached about the will, and it was all about you making the decisions. Well, that's not what I'm going to tell you today. But I must tell you that God has given you an ability. Doesn't matter who you are, where you've come from, what has happened in your life. The cross guarantees that you have freedom to choose. Amen? And that choice is made by the will. Notice what Mrs. White says in the same book. You will be in constant peril until you understand the true force of the will. You may believe and promise all things, but your promises or your faith are of no value until you put your